Greetings, fellow messengers. It's good to be with you. This is Makayo, coming to you with a little grit in my voice as I fight off a cough. So be sure to be praying for me cough to get going away here. I want to talk to you about arpazo, rapture, tribulation. It's all happening, folks. If you haven't noticed, it's happening right in front of your eyes. And I got a quick video to share with you today. It's kind of a part one. So look forward to the next part coming soon. But I wanted to just give you a quick boost. And that's why I do this. I do this to give you a boost. I'm not claiming that I know when it's going to happen. No one knows when but the Lord himself, right? But the Father knows. The Father knows best. However, he does tell us to watch and pray. And it's good to stay encouraged. You know, when someone says, it's not till next year, that doesn't really keep you faithful right now. So it's nice to have these little videos that kind of talk about the next couple dates coming up, you know, that are just around the corner. It may or may not happen on that day. Whatever is going to happen may or may not happen. But it's encouraging to kind of look at ways and reasons why it could. And so that's why I do this. I do this just to encourage you, not to claim anything. I do not claim to be a prophet, and I do not claim to know the future. I'm simply looking at things, looking at scriptures, looking at dates, looking at things, how things line up, and saying, this is interesting. Oh, this is cool. And just exploring the idea that this could be the day that is upon us. So I want to talk to you about the latest info coming down the wire, and there's always new information that God is revealing in these last days, as he told Daniel he would seal it up until the end time, and then he'll reveal it, and that's what he's doing now. So check this out, okay? So, and if I'm live here, and I see some of you watching, so be sure to say hi over there in the chat box, and I definitely will say hi back. And if you have any questions or anything, I'm going to unload this, and then I'll check out if you have any questions or thoughts for me. But check this out, okay? Check this out. So in 605/604 BC, as we see in Daniel 1, 2 Kings 24, Ezekiel 24, this is essentially when Nebuchadnezzar started his reign of terror. And he actually invaded Jerusalem 3 separate times. Don't know if you know that, but 3 separate times. So it wasn't just one besieging that took place. It was 3 separate times under three different kings, actually, in Israel. Let me get over to that page, and I can show you that a little bit here. I think I got Daniel. Yeah, Daniel. Well, that's Daniel 12. Let me just show you this. Let me just show you this real quick. Let me take a look over here. So make sure this is showing up for you. Okay. So, and we'll come back to the scripture in a second. But in Ezekiel 24, okay, good old Zeke. I like to call him Zeke for short. I don't know if he likes it, but I think it's kind of cool. Or easy. Sometimes I'm in an easy mood. Be like, because you're easy, yeah. Okay, so easy like Sunday morning. All right. Anyway, in Ezekiel 24, is Ezekiel 24? No, I'm sorry, 1 Kings 24. Ooh, it is in Ezekiel. It's in Ezekiel 24 actually as well, but the one I wanted to look at was 1 Kings 24, because the king is coming. You know what I'm saying? All right. Let me go over here. My computer's running a little slow. It doesn't like the streaming thing. I don't know. Man, what is going on? Okay. Now you're just going to get mad at me. Don't get mad at me. Don't get mad at me. I'm coming. Okay, why was my request for 24? Oh, because the 2 Kings. Man. That's what happens when you're live, you know. If I was recording this as a video, I'd probably do it again, but I'm live, so here we go. All right, 2 Kings 24. So I want to show you this. So Jehoiakim was the first one back this off a little bit. Jehoiakim, Kim with an M, says, in his days, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up, and Jehoiakim became his servant for 3 years. Then he turned and rebelled against him. And the Lord sent against him bands of the Chaldees and the Syrians and the Moabites and the Ammonites and to destroy Judah, to destroy it, okay? And basically, excuse me, that was the first time that he did this. Man, it's so much easier to read in a real Bible. I was just reading my real Bible, and it was so much easier to see what. So you know what? I'm going to read it out of my real Bible here. None of this Memorex stuff. Okay, 2 Kings 24. Go over there real quick. Thanks for bearing with me. All right, so basically what's going down is during Jehoiakim's reign, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, invaded the land. Okay, and you can see this for yourself in 2 Kings 24. And then Jehoiakim became his vassal. And during that time, it says in verse 10 that Nebuchadnezzar besieged it, and that he laid siege of it and besieged the city. And when he did, he took some of the good stuff. He took some of the treasures from the temple of the Lord's palace, the gold articles that had been made for the temple of the Lord. Okay, so now that happens, right? Now that was Jehoiakim. Okay, so basically what goes down here is Jehoiakim, then Jehoiakim, and then Zedekiah. Okay, so there's 3 different kings and during each time, Nebuchadnezzar comes along and he harasses them. Okay, he's like a bully. He just kind of comes along. He's like, I'm gonna mess with you, man. So he messes with them and messes with them and messes. And each time he's like, well, maybe I'll take a few of this and a little bit of that. And you know what I'm saying? And so basically, it was over a period of time that he did this kind of terrorism of Israel until finally he just, took everything out of the temple and he burned the whole place down, right? And this was over a period of several years. So as we look at this, this reign of terror kind of begins in 605, roughly 605, 604. And in Daniel chapter, which is where I was, in Daniel chapter 12, okay, just to set this up properly for you here. And if I have to deal with more than 2 windows open, I'm a mess. So thanks for sticking with me. All right, so Daniel 12. Let's go down here. Okay, so Daniel 12, right? He says, and from the time the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, in verse 11 there, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days. Blessed is he that waiteth and cometh to the 1,305 and 5 and 30 days. Okay, so and this is kind of good old English KJV, which tends to be a little bit more accurate. But let me just throw an NIV out there so you can get a little taste of that one, just for you modernizers there. Okay, from the time that the daily sacrifice is abolished, and really the more appropriate term is taken away versus abolished, just to let you know that. And you can check that out here, Blue Letter Bible, and you can go to the original Greek text. And the abomination that causes desolation or makes desolate. And I wanted to share this definition with you about desolate because I was, it sounds cool. Abomination, desolation. It's like a rhyme. The abomination causes desolation. It's you could write a song about it. But I always was like, what does that mean? Abomination. Okay, so first when you look at this, let's look at this word abomination first of all. Okay, and that's the words sickest. Like I am sickest of this. Shikuts is how they pronounce it, but it looks like sickest. Okay, so it can mean abomination, or it can mean a detestable thing, or an idol, an abominable thing, an abomination, an idol detested thing. So it's just something that you're like, eesh, what is that doing there? Okay, and then it's interesting. It says it makes it desolate, and when I first thought about it, and as you can see, I wrote down here the Dome of the Rock. Okay. And we're going to talk about this Dome of Rock that was set up here in around 685, 686 roughly, and then that was built over a period of time as well. We'll talk about that in a second. But I thought, when I first thought about Dome of the Rock, I'm like, Dome of the Rock is, it's related to Islam, and Islam causes desolation because they like to cut heads off of Christians and things like that, right? So, they like to kill the people that they are that they are oppressing, or that isn't one of them. I'm not saying that's all Muslims. I know that's not all Muslims, but let's face it, you got a reputation there, folks. So anyway, so you got this religion that sets up this dome over God's holy rock, where his the Ark of the Covenant was, and and so I'm thinking, oh well, maybe that's what it means by the abomination of desolation, because these people, what this represents, are people who go out and they just desolate everybody. It's, notice they always attack the Christian bakers, not the Muslim bakers, when it comes to the loony agendas that they want to push. Just for an example, so it's because they know Christians aren't going to cut your head off. So that was the first thing that comes to mind. But then when I think about it, I'm like, well, desolate, what does desolate actually mean? Which it could mean that. I mean, because when you kill people, well, here, I'll show you in a second here. Oh, it's here on the screen. Oh, you see it already. Okay, good. So desolate means devoid of inhabitants and visitors. So I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting, because that's exactly what happened when they put that Dome of the Rock on there, and that's what's happened ever since. It basically, and they took over the Temple Mount. They made it devoid of God's people. They made it devoid of inhabitants and visitors to His temple. So once they did that, because up to that point, Jews would go up there and they would pray there. I'm sure even though the temple wasn't there, they would still mourn over it and pray for God to come back. Instead of wailing at a wall, they'd be wailing on the Temple Mount, praying that God would restore His temple. But when they put that dome there and the Muslims took over, they said, you ain't coming up here no more. This is our place. And so they basically made it desolate, devoid of inhabitants and visitors of God's holy people, the Jews, right? So that is very interesting to me. So you got this. So did I read that scripture? Yeah, I did. Okay, so in Daniel, right, it says, going back to Daniel real quick here. Let me get over there. Okay, so we're sickest of this, right? So we go back. So that's the detestable thing, the abomination. And then we talked about desolation. Okay, so it says from the time that the daily sacrifice is abolished, right? Which is when Nebuchadnezzar came in and he took all the holy things out of the temple. And when he took all the holy things out of the temple, guess what? You can't do the daily sacrifice anymore, because you don't have the tools needed to perform God's holy ceremonies, right? That the way He decreed it to be done. So they couldn't just kind of wing it or fake it. I mean, they had to do it a certain way. God proclaimed, and they had to use the holy vessels that were in God's temple, right, to do those things. And so when Nebuchadnezzar came and took that stuff, then the daily sacrifice had been taken away. So it's not abolished, actually. The word abolished here is sir. And if you look at that, you will see that it actually means to put or take away, to depart, to remove. So it's not abolish so much. Abolish is kind of a strong, like a command or an edict was passed down. We abolish this. You may no longer do this. It was more that it was taken away. Their ability to do it was taken away, right? Because He had taken that stuff out of there. Okay, so that's what happened in roughly 604, 605 BC. Now, some people say, well, some people think it was 590. It's interesting. Some people think it was, because he did this over a period of years. So at one point he took the treasures, right? And then finally he comes back and just burns the whole temple to the ground, right? So 598, 597 BC, he's there, and he, that's another date that's often given. But that could be the date that actually the temple was burned down instead. What's interesting about that, though, is if it's the same 1290 days, as Daniel calls it, but we know he plays with days and years. When he says a week, he means we're talking about 7 years, not 7 days. So same thing here is 1290 days, 1290 years. If we go 1290 into the future, then we get to the year of the Dome of the Rock. And the 692, 693 is roughly when it was completed. See? So we got the start of the Dome of the Rock and the completion. And we have the start of Nebuchadnezzar's terrorism and the completion of his terrorism. See how that works? Is that interesting? Okay. Let me just show you that real quick here in a good old calculator, because I know I was watching this on, I was getting some of these info from some other great videos that are out there, and it was very confusing. Like I had to sit there and go, like, what? And I'm not a numbers guy, so getting my brain around it was a little challenging. So if you're like me, it may be helpful for me to do this for you. So let's just take 1290, okay, right? That's what we're talking about. And then you subtract the 604, right? I'm going to go to 604. Now again, it was over a period of time, but let me just show you this real quick. That takes you to 686. Right, so that's the period of the Dome of the Rock is being built. Now, you got to keep in mind, we're missing the 0 year, right? So when they say 605 or 686, that could really come out to 685 because there's, or vice versa. I mean, when you say 604, you're going to actually add a year in there, take it back to 605 because there's that, we have year one on both sides, but we don't have the 0 year. So I hope that makes sense to you. I can explain that more at another time if you need more explanation on that. Okay, so that's the 1290, right? So it's very interesting that it just happens to go from the point Nebuchadnezzar destroys everything to the point that the Dome of the Rock gets built and causes desolation on God's holy mountain from his holy people. They're never to come up there and worship again. They've now taken over with their abominations. Which again, the word abomination was really just like a detestable thing. Like, what's that doing on God's holy mountain, right? And it is detestable. I mean, you look at that, you go, it could be beautiful from an aesthetic standpoint, but when you think this is supposed to be God's temple, and what is this? What is this sitting here? This is not supposed to be there, right? So anything would be detestable. You could put a beautiful car there and it would be detestable because it shouldn't be there. It's not where that should be. It's not what should be there, right? So, okay. So let's look a little further here. So that's the 1290 days that we see of Daniel, right? In Daniel 12, going back over there. So from the time the daily sacrifice is abolished and the abomination that caused. So from the time the daily sacrifice is abolished, that's Nebuchadnezzar, because he came in, or taken away, he took away their ability to do daily sacrifice, until the abomination that causes desolation, or the detestable thing that makes the place desolate, right, is set up, and it was set up there, there'll be 1,290 days. So that makes a lot of sense. And the fact that it lines up perfectly like that is pretty amazing. Now, let's go to the next one here. He says, blessed is the one who waits for and reaches the end of the 1,335 days. Okay, so what is this? Blessed is the one who waits for and reaches the 1,335 days. Okay, let's take a look at that. So, right, they've completed the Dome of the Rock, right? So now we're on to the next year. So we wouldn't start at 685 again. We'd start at the next year, right? Because that completed that year. So now we're 686, 687 / somewhere in that midst, depending on how you're doing the years. Because you know how the Jewish year is a little bit different than, starts at a different point than our year does and so forth. So you have to kind of take some of that into context. So 1335 days, right? Again, now we're talking years. So from the Dome of the Rock, and I wrote A of D, which is Abomination of Desolation, until the Blessed One, and blessed is the one who reaches the 1335 days, right? Because that's the end. Okay, so what are we talking about here? Who reaches the end of the 1335 days? So that's an interesting way to put it. So are we kind of holding out for something? We're hanging out for something? What's going to happen at the end of these 1335 days, these years? Okay, so following the abomination being there, and again, that really is the abomination of desolation, guys. I mean, I thought, well, maybe that's just sort of type in shadow, and there's going to be a new one abomination. Maybe there is, but really, it accomplished that goal. It really kept, ever since they put that there, the Jews have been desolate from there. They have not been able to go up there. They're not able to worship there. They're just now starting to let them go up there, but they're not allowed to pray. It's desolate of God's people and the worship of Jehovah, right? The God of the Bible, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So it really has accomplished that goal. And so now you got the 1335 years, which comes to this time period, right, that we're in right now. This is the one that reaches this. And if you look here, it says 1290 plus 1335, and I put plus 1 for the year 0, and that will take you to 2021/2022, because we're still in the year 2021, because on the Jewish calendar, it doesn't end until the new year begins, which is Adar 1, I believe, which is like April, roughly. I think I may be wrong about that, but I think that's roughly when it begins. You can check it. I don't have the Jewish calendar open right now for that, so you can check that out yourself. But so we're still in that year. We're still in that time period, and we've got this fig tree generation that you might have heard about. And basically, that means when Israel became a nation, on May 14th. Sorry, just making sure you knew. May 14th, 1948, they became a nation, and born in a day, as Isaiah said. And so we're waiting. They've never made it past 80 years, and as God says in Psalm 90, a man's years will be 70 years, 80 if he has the strength. So that points to 80 being a generation. There is the 120-year concept of a generation, but that isn't really what most people live, right? Most people live still today. I think it's 70 something is the average age. So people don't really make it past 80 very much. So that being said, they're born in a day, right? And so they're what's considered the fig tree generation, as Jesus talked about. It's a lot of references I did in another video to fig tree. So go check that out. I think that's the video. I think that's the last. That may be the last video I did relating to arpazo, which is called 4 months more. Open your eyes. Go check that one out. But basically, the fig tree generation, okay, is Israel. And so when you look at it, you think, how are we counting these days, right? Because we're talking about the 74. Basically, there's 73 right now. They're going to turn 74 on May 14th of this year. So, well, at least according to our calendar, I should say. And this is my whole point. According to our calendar, the regular calendar, well, I shouldn't say regular, but the Gregorian calendar, 365 days a year, we're looking to celebrate their birthday on the anniversary, May 14th, 2022, would be 74. And they no longer, and so basically, they wouldn't fulfill the fig tree generation of 80 years wouldn't be fulfilled if the tribulation / wrath of God doesn't start. Then they'd be over 80 years old by the time Jesus came back. Is basically what it boils down to. So we're looking at this as sort of a cutoff time if we're going to make this fig tree generation concept work, right? And Jesus said this generation will not pass away until they see these things happen, until Jesus returns. So it pretty much has to happen to fulfill that, or there's got to be some amazing other way that's going to get fulfilled that we don't understand yet, perhaps. And again, that's why you do these videos too. It's just you learn more, you gain more insight, and so forth. So hopefully that's what you're getting out of it as well. So looking at this 74 years, right? I'm like, okay, well, so how does that work out in terms of the days, right? Because we know that from our calendar, but what if we were to do it, the old-fashioned way, like the Jews did, and we took 74, let me clear this, 74, and we do that times 360, right? 360 days a year on the Jewish calendar, 74 years. That takes us to 26,640. Now, if I go back over here and I go to their birthday on 1948 and I add 26,640 days, right? and I could calculate new dates. That takes me to April 21st, 2021. Well, that has come and gone, right? So, but what if instead of using the Jewish calendar, Jesus said it would be like the days of Noah? The days of Noah, the days of Noah. Is there a message in there? The days of Noah. So beyond it just being like Noah's time period, which we certainly see that now, the days of Noah, kind of like I talked about in the last video when I was talking about his days will be 120 years. Well, here's the days of Noah, right? Well, how did Noah calculate the years back then? Well, it's generally thought and understood that he used what we call the Enoch calendar. And the Enoch calendar, from the little I've learned about it, uses a 364-day calendar. Pretty similar to ours, but also with ours you got to consider a leap year. I don't know that Enoch was using leap years there, but that's my understanding. Okay, so 74 times 364, that gives us 26,936. Okay, so we go back over here to our handy dandy day calculator, and I just said 26,936, right? And where does that bring us? That brings us to February 11th. February 11th. So, if we're not counting by Gregorian time period, right? But we're counting by the days of Noah, the Enoch calendar, then that means that they're not going to turn 74 on May 14th, 2022, because that would be according to the Gentile Gregorian way of counting. But instead, it would be like the days of Noah, and they would actually turn 74 on February 11th. What do you think about them apples? So, think about that. Let that brew, let that simmer, let that make you ponder and get a little deeper in your understanding of the Lord. Pretty cool, right? Because who wants to wait till May anyway, right? So, pretty cool, pretty interesting. And I got more to share with you, but I'm going to put that in a part 2 video. So you're going to have to wait for that one. I got to leave you hanging. Got to tantalize you with that one. But ponder that, simmer on that one for a little bit, and I'll come back in another video and we'll talk more. And let me just take a look down here. I want to thank my Russian friend for stopping by and leaving a little comment in Russian that I can't understand. So thanks for stopping by. And thank you all for watching. Please leave your comments. Please like, share, subscribe, get the word out. If you want to help support us, you can do that through our website. You'll find in the description as well. Thanks so much, guys. Love y'all, and I look forward to talking to you soon. And join us on Sundays for a free online fellowship. It's always free, of course, but it's online, live fellowship. You just tune in, and we're usually broadcasting here on YouTube. But if you don't see us here, you can find us through Zoom. And we should be there this Sunday. And if not, I may send an update if we have to change that time at all. But usually it's 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, love you.